Hi there, my name is Kaya and I'm a level designer here at Rivet Games. Today I'll be going over some of the technical aspects, such as NPCs and collectibles, and also I'm joined by my colleague.
Hi there, my name is Greg. I'm a level designer here at Rivet Games as well. And today I will be showing you how we are working with the splines, and I will also show you how we are setting up the collisions and how we're setting up the collision walls, both for player and train camera as well. First things first, what is a spline? So splines are just a repeating part of geometry that we can drag out onto the level, and it basically looks from the beginning like a solid object. We can easily adjust the spline by picking the points. I don't know if you guys can see, but here are the spline points. Here's one point, here's the second point. It's very simple. All you need to do is just drag it away a little bit. First things first, we need to untick the use instance static meshes. What that allows us, if we're not gonna untick the use static meshes, the spline itself can broke, which I will show you in a moment. As you can see, perfect example. As you can see, the spline broke in here, like somewhere in the middle. If I'm gonna tick off that use instance static meshes, so the gap which was shown in here, it's not there anymore. That's why use instant static meshes box must be unticked, so we won't get as many gaps when the spline curves, as you can, like you can see in here. Now I'm gonna try to place it. I'm gonna delete unwanted spline points, which is very simple. Just pressing the spline point and just hitting the delete, same as with this one. Just gonna delete all of them. I'm gonna only focus on that spline point. I'm gonna drag it all the way up here where it should be. And now, as you can see, there's a small curvature in here on the roads. And you might actually wonder how we can make the spline a bit curvy, I would say. It's very simple. On that line which is shown in here, I'm pressing the right mouse button and I'm simply adding add spline point here. As you can see, the spline point was created, and now I can move the spline to match it with the road as it's shown in here. Then I can come and adjust it a bit further by taking another point, stretching it out a little bit, put it a little bit forward, so it's gonna match the road as close as possible. I'm gonna do exactly the same with this one, just a little bit back, match it with the road, and that's how the splines are created. So a spline can be basically anything. It might be the hedge, it might be the wall, which is a spline as well. It might be a fence, it might be trackside fence as well. We can also convert the splines into the, I would say, kind of a bit collision walls, meaning under the collision tab, when I'm gonna click on a spline, which is, for an example, I've taken the spline from the trackside, under physical material, under collisions, all we have to do is to change the spline collision from no collision, which is usually set up to no collision, to query only. That allows us to make sure that the player won't go further than the collision wall itself. But now the question, what is a collision wall? So collision walls, for an example, we are using at this moment two collision walls. First collision wall, it's this one, which is a very short collision wall for the player, meaning that the player can't go any further from the track than this collision wall. And there is another collision wall for the camera. If you have played our games, you will know that there is a setting during the simulator that you can take as screenshots from different parts of the route. That wall stops camera from going any further behind it. So basically, camera is not gonna go further than this. And that's the collisions, that's the collision walls that we are basically using for blocking the player or blocking the camera from going any further from the track. Applying collision walls, it's very similar, it's very simple as well. Basically the same principle as with the splines. All we need to do is just grab collision wall. In this instance I've got the player collision wall. As you can see, we've got the points in here as well, which are exactly the same representation as spline, and all I need to do is just drag it. Then if I want to create another point or another part of the collision wall alongside the track, for an example, all I need to do is just press Alt and just drag it again. And as you can see, we've got at this moment we've got 1, which is a barely visible 1, 2 and 3. Just like creating a point for the splines, we can easily create a point for the collision walls as well. All I need to do is on this white line, I just need to click the right mouse button and click add spline point, which gonna create the spline point, as you can see in here. So at this precise moment we got 4 spline points. So that's basically the principles of how we are creating the splines and how we are creating the collision walls. Now I'm gonna pass over to my colleague Kaya, who's gonna explain to you the process of placing the no playable characters and setting up the collisions for no playable characters as well. Kaya?
Thanks, Greg. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about NPCs. First of all, I thought a good place to start would be to show a final type of collision that we add. And you can see this box here. It's quite hard because there's a lot going on, but if I drag this over, so you'll see that there is a box here in the scene. This type of collision will often add at stations, and it is a type of collision that allows NPCs, the non-playable characters, to walk through, but it will block the player. So in this little drop down, we set it to block player only. Actually, at this station, this doesn't exist. I added that for demonstration purposes because there's a ramp that goes down here, so the player will need access. But it's a useful tool to have if you ever want to stop the player going somewhere but you need the NPCs to walk in. We try to spawn the NPCs somewhere out of sight. Often it's quite tricky to find somewhere, especially if it's quite open like this. On this particular station, they seem to come in at the other side of the buses, as if they've just got off a nice coach trip. So you can see this blue box here. This represents the NPC spawn points, and they should be able to walk around onto the platforms. This purple box that you see here are the wait areas, and again we'll place these along the platforms, and that is the destination that NPCs can go to before they get onto their train. If I turn on this view, which makes the scene even busier, I'm afraid, this is something called the navmesh. So this is actually probably the first part of NPC setup, and what this is basically it pastes down, it uses a volume over here, the nav bounds volume, and this is a giant cube that we put down, and it pastes down this lime green stuff that you see here. And what this means is this is what Unreal Engine has decided is a walkable area for the NPCs. So anything covered in this lime green, an NPC could potentially walk to. And you can see there's all sorts of little divots and breaks here, and this is why NPCs can give you a good laugh or a good cry depending on the day. There's a lot of issues we'll have to QA check now and then, especially when it comes to stairs or collisions being out too far, because you can see it's really sensitive. The harsh green line shows where this breaks and stops. So if I turn on collisions, it's quite hard to see, but there's a faint outline of the collisions on this object. So you can see it starts quite flush to the object, but this walkable area, this nav mesh, it's so sensitive that it will just say that this space isn't usable. So when you have something like this, for instance, where the collisions seem to have came out quite far, it will make the space even less. So potentially an artist might have to make the collisions come in even more here, or if we don't need the NPCs to access this part of the track, it should be okay. Before I move on to showing you a little bit more about this navmesh setup, I thought I could show you some of the bugs that we've had in the past because of navmesh issues. So if there's a breakage, we'll have clusters of NPCs just standing there, not able to get anywhere. So if they were meant to start over here and there's nothing green for them to walk on, they'll just gather, sadly. We've had comical ones where they'll just face the wall if you've got things on the platform set up incorrectly. This is my personal favourite, and they are just swimming. They are really the gift that keep on giving, NPCs. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of QA checks involved when it comes to NPCs, and with everything on the route, but these are notorious for throwing up all sorts of issues. Particularly ones that we faced are to do with stairs and narrow corners, because again, like I was saying earlier about the collisions, this nav mesh is so sensitive, so if you've got a small area to go through, it can often just break or act in really strange ways. If there's changes in height, for instance, it will try and calculate the difference, and sometimes that's not quite correct. I do have an image of me trying to do a demonstration of this earlier, but I think I'll actually just make this in-game because that's probably easier to explain. Right now I'm trying to simulate what it's like when we're trying to put a nav mesh over some stairs. I'll make these stairs really steep. So if we drag in our nav mesh volume, this means that anything under this cube, it should try and calculate what's a walkable area. Then everything in here that has collision should get this lime green, so the landscape and these cubes here. There's a harsh green line, which means that this is broken and nothing would be able to walk up it. Now if I copy and paste these stairs, I'll try and make it so that it's a little bit less steep and see how we get on. Sometimes that can be the issue, and it's just a case of things were far too steep and it just really didn't like it, so sometimes this helps. So that works surprisingly well, but what I actually wanted to show you here is some of the little tricks that we'll use. So if we can't fix it within the actual model, we'll often add geometry that we can hide in game if we use this little actor hidden in game tick box. So my personal favourite for fixing issues on stairs is just adding like another cube and we'll ramp up to it. So picture this is not visible in the game, so you've just got nice stairs and then this ramp which is only visible to the game engine, so it's only for calculating here. It should make a nicer path. I actually think this path looks better, annoyingly, for the demonstration, but you can maybe see that it's a bit more of a gradual slope, and these aren't breakages, these are just where it's kind of gone into the geometry. You can tell because it's not got the harsh green edge. But yeah, again in my little picture, this is what I thought it would work out as, which is the steep steps breaking, this one kind of working but not being quite there, and then with the cheeky little ramp added, it should just work a lot smoother. For tidying up this green area, there's also another volume that we use, which is a modifier volume. And this is useful because, yeah, this can paste in all sorts of areas. I think this is actually a modifier one over here. So if there's places that we want to stop the NPCs from walking, we can put that in, again, build our path, and it should just take out a little chunk. So it says, you cannot walk here, and it just breaks along this line. So yeah, lots of QA and fun things involved, but hopefully you know a bit more about our NPCs now. Going to move on to collectibles. On various routes we'll have all sorts of different collectibles. That was a little newspaper stand there. Sometimes they'll be related to the train, things like newspaper stands, or I think there's our route map, so this, when collected, it'll kind of show the route that we're on. But we also like to have a bit of fun with it. So on past routes we've had snow globes and ice cream stands and all sorts of fun things to match the scenery. I think this time, yeah, we've got this bike collectible, and what it is it comes and it's sort of in need of some love and care. So it's got like its wheel missing and you get to repair this, because Switzerland, fantastic infrastructure for bikes, and you'll see these bike stands all along the route, so we really wanted to have something that would fit the area. And our last collectible is our poster. I think we've done posters on various routes, but yeah, we just like to have a bit of fun with the collectibles, and hopefully it's fun for you all to find them. That's all for today, but I hope you've enjoyed hearing about some of the technical aspects that go into route building. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out all of our other routes and videos.
We do kind of hope, guys, that you have enjoyed that video. Please do like and subscribe to our channel, and we're looking forward to hear any comments from you regarding our newest route and regarding the road building and level design as well. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.